worry about you.
They should have animated Forge's face when he turned on the news and he saw like all disappointed, like
I'm like Charlie in front of the board here, where I'm like, it's right there.
Is X-Men 97 better than the animated?
Would say yes.
You gotta have some, yeah. You want to have some real heart to hearts, or maybe get in the danger room and work it out.
And he's also still, his human side that
flawed. I like that, and that's like a theme of the whole thing, pretty much. From Cyclops, from Professor on down.
Mr. Sinister's in the intro to the show because Mort is frightened of him. Was kind of our window into existing with the X-Men.
This could have been an end of episode cliffhanger. They're like, sorry guys, I just found out that's the real Gene. Dun dun dun.
all right, everybody, man, oh man, oh man. It's your boy at the Sunset Kid 56 Marcos. We're here back with a very different, very special after school new episode of the X-Pod 97. Not talking about X-Men. That is not Mega Ran. That is our homie, Derek, aka at Cap Caveman. Derek, tell him who you are, man.
Hey, man, I am I'll start off with saying I'm a huge comic book fan, and then that extends to everything beyond that. But I cover baseball here in town, do a little betting stuff, known troublemaker. Mostly, I just get to ride on Mega Ran's coattails and get to do cool stuff like go to Hollywood movie premieres and, raw Netflix debuts and stuff.
That's what we all do. That we're all living the dream through that man, the myth, the legend, Mega Ran. So, in case you guys didn't notice, this is an X-Pod 97 production. We're going to go ahead and just dive into what is the phenomenal show now known as Daredevil Reborn. Now, Disney Plus dropped 2 episodes this week, so it would only be fitting that we start off just recapping those episodes. So, number one, off the gate, how did you feel? Like, first 10 minutes of the show.
I mean, like it was ridiculous. Like, I couldn't believe how quickly they got into it. I love continuity, right? So I love the fact that when you talk about, this cast and doing this show from the Netflix version of Daredevil, right? Like, everybody's back and you felt like right when the first episode started, like we didn't even miss a beat. And I love that. I love when they're able to transition stuff because this show always had a great cast. No one ever wanted to see them recast, Daredevil or any of the characters in the show. But man, they did not wait. We were getting into 4 episodes in before something tragic happened. We weren't waiting, even until the end of the episode 1 for like a teaser that left you coming back for more. No, we're doing this now. Bye, Foggy.
The house that Mouse built, they were like, nah, man. To quote a great man by the name of Jacob Fatu, all gas, no brakes.
All gas, no brakes. You know what I mean?
You know what I mean? Yo, so basically, we start off, you get the familiar lay of the land, they're leaving, what is it, Murdoch Page and I forgot Foggy's last name, but they're leaving, the old digs, and they're talking about the changes, which is kind of tongue in cheek. They're talking about the blip, and they're talking about like kind of looking at the crowd, breaking the fourth wall, like, oh, it's been a while. Things are changing in New York. The first noticeable thing for me was how great Foggy looked. Foggy looked like he was hitting the gym. Some people say he hit the Ozempic. It is what it is. Foggy looked like $1 million. They go to the bar that they always go to, Josie's, and they're chilling. Normal day, Foggy's kicking game. Karen and Matt are like, flirting with each other. All of a sudden, Foggy is like, let's have this drink, this special whiskey, whatever. And before he even takes a shot, he gets a call. It's a call from what Matt intercepts that it's one of his informants or somebody that he's working with. And he's like, I think they know where I'm at. Lo and behold, Matt is like, oh, let me help him. because he starts hearing like the commotion on the phone in the background. So off the rip, what did you think about this emphasis on the hearing powers that they gave Matt?
Oh, I
Like,
like it. I
like it-
like that particular aspect of it. I've always like I don't know if it's cheesy sometimes to do what this is what Daredevil sees,
yeah,
because it's like he doesn't see that. We
yeah,
don't know what he's blind. He doesn't see anything, right? Like I do like when they try to be like a little creative with it and show like, the sounds kind of giving him,
yeah,
kind of a visual representation like a bat or something, right? Like
yeah,
that's always cool, but I like the fact that they just showed him hearing everything really well and like being able to zero in on whatever he wanted to like specifically listen to, no matter how far it was, no matter how, like, because he was in a crowded bar, there's a party going on, there's a lot of
yep.
stuff going on, right? Like, so he's able to hear Foggy outside on the phone, and like
So
I like that.
he basically got a Superman on. I don't know if you remember Superman Returns.
Yeah,
When he's flying above Earth and he's like remembering, like, how do you tune him out? He's like, just listen. He
yeah,
started, he got that memo. But the one wisecrack that I love, that it kind of was like, all right, we're starting anew, was when Karen was like, hey, how about these glasses? Maybe you should update them.
yeah.
That was funny because I'm like, he's gonna come out with the little glasses. The rest, I'm like, yo, this is like so dated. Even and it's crazy because the show came out 8 years ago.
Yeah,
Like even for
yeah.
8 years ago, those glasses are like, oh man, why are you still rocking those? But
Yeah.
you know,
Well, and I think it's again, like they really wanted to completely pave the gap in a way, right? Like they
yep,
wanted you to know this is the same show. It's a different version, it's different season, and it's on Disney Plus now, but like we're trying to like, not mess with the success that this show had, because of any television show that was Marvel that existed outside of like kind of Disney's control that was really good, it was this. Like this
yep,
Daredevil show on Netflix was always hands down good because of, I guess, like the way that they can make it appealing to both, the comic book fan and people just watching shows on Netflix.
yeah, and like off rip, like Daredevil swings into action, for lack of a better word. He immediately got the suit.
Yep.
You could tell, the CGI is a little bit better, and then it happens. He hears like a gun loading, and he hears a chambered bullet, and then he realizes that, wait, the guy's not looking for him, he's looking for Foggy. And then we get that faithful shot, breaking our hearts. 5 minutes into the show, my man gets shot, and I immediately, based on the placement of this scene, I was like, ain't no way he gonna make it.
Yeah.
Like, if it was a cliffhanger, I'm like,
Yeah.
something. No, this is like in the beginning. Like, there's so
Mhm.
much episode left, and then that's when like Matt just goes full devil, and he starts fighting. I forgot the name.
Bullseye.
Yeah, Bullseye, but I forgot the name. His character that they gave.
Poindexter.
Poindexter, but
Yeah.
he's fighting Bullseye, who does not say anything. He kind of just smirks. And they have this very brutal fight scene that starts out in front, and they throw each other through the bar, and then they end up going through the back of Josie's. What did you think of the fight scene?
Oh,
Did you think it was an improvement? I personally thought, like, as soon as I saw that fight scene, I was like, okay, I'm in. And the reason why is because we saw the Daredevil in Netflix. His fight scenes were brutal, but it always felt like Matt was trying to fight uphill. Like he always kept getting his ass kicked, like by
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
But
I know what you're saying.
like immediately with this, it was like, nah, bro. But it was pure anger and adrenaline. What did you think? So they're fighting.
It was awesome. I mean, it was awesome. Like that's the one thing that Daredevil's always done well, is have incredible fight scenes, especially like that one shot, where they don't cut, they don't edit, they just kind of like leave that shot. The bar scene, right, where Bullseye throws in the smoke and he comes in and he's just murking people, and Daredevil was going to murk people, I should say. He was about to kill everybody, and he just crashes them through the window. And like they just sat on that shot while they fought. And I mean, there was so much good in this entire fight scene. I
Did you?
honestly, the only problem I had with it was like it was all not downhill, but like it was literally the most exciting moment in these first 2 episodes.
Yeah, I mean,
Outside of maybe the final couple of minutes of episode 2, right? And
but
like
they gotta.
it was showing what they're gonna do out of the gate. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
like I liked it. I enjoyed the silhouette fight. Because you didn't
Yes.
need like that
Yeah.
kind of like they threw in the CGI, so you see them bouncing around and all this stuff, and like people being thrown and everything, and then like, man, Bullseye is insane. My
Bro,
man, like
dude.
they go into the hallway. My man just like, yo, that dude was not even in his way. He threw a knife at him, killed him. His girl said something. He yapped her. Like yo.
I didn't even
like,
know what happened to her. I just heard her screaming and then cut out because he threw stuff. But like he's throwing cans at people. He was, you know, the way that he got that fly with the paperclip. Like I love the comic book imagery of it and the over the top nature. Like that is what makes Bullseye Bullseye. Is he don't miss. He's like Carmelo Hayes. He does not miss.
He does
and
not
that man,
miss. To quote,
he's throwing the pool balls and the billiards balls and everything. Like, man, it was just I loved everything about that because it just showed how like lethal he was and all the knives in Matt's body. But by the end of the fight,
and they're
like,
going up, and then they're emphasizing how brutal it is because both guys are huffing and puffing.
Yeah,
they're like, but it's like it's a real fight. It's not like, you know, like superheroes. Like it wasn't like a Dragon Ball Z. Like you know what I mean? It's like, man. Totally right. And then, you know, I love the fact that there was no real spoken words. All you kept hearing was outside of the fighting, you kept hearing what Matt heard, which is Foggy's heartbeat.
Yeah.
And then they kept going back and forth between Karen's reaction and Matt's hearing the heartbeat, and it kind of coincided. And then when they finally, when Poindexter Bullseye got up to the roof, and then Matt finally heard, you know, like that his heartbeat was slowing, he swung out again. That was Disney being gratuitous. They had he left out, jumped out a window, and then swung off to the roof. That was just to show that, like, hey man, this Daredevil can glide and can do everything. He's not out there just jumping, climbing things. Like we got a little bit of money here. Like it gave us a little movie like feel. And then they get up there, and then he finally hears the heartbeat go, and like he can almost. I feel like not only he heard the heartbeat, I felt like he heard Foggy take his last breath.
Yeah.
When you saw that, were you like, what the hell? Or were you like, oh, like he's gonna come back? Or did you immediately when it happened, did you think he was gonna save him?
I just knew that this was what was gonna set this like show apart. Like I knew that they wanted like stakes and to set the stakes right out of the gate. Honestly, it's one of the things that they kind of dug into a little too much over the course of the Daredevil's run on Netflix is, you know, him always saving his friends and everything always kind of working out. Like he gets his ass kicked, but hey, you know, he ends up saving the day. And this time he couldn't, right? And like the time that he couldn't is the time that he walks away, which he was already kind of sounding a little bit like he was considering already prior to this, but this is like the thing that pushed him over the edge. I loved, you know, him asking why and not getting the answer. You know what I mean?
And like him just smiling, like he's like, it was like very Joker-esque, you know, Heath Ledger, like I'm just a dog chasing, you know, a car. Like I don't know what I'm gonna do when I catch up to it. It's like it is what it is.
Yeah.
But so, you know, a lot of people initially, so when the show was planned out in the early stages of Daredevil Reborn, they were saying that they were going to have these two characters, Karen Page and Foggy, die off screen, and we were going to pick up the story like kind of like, oh, you know, this is Matt picking up his life after the fact.
Sure.
And so what are your thoughts? Because, you know, they cleaned house, they brought in some producers from Netflix, they brought in some producers and creators from Loki, and they kind of are giving us this, like, I want to say it's like a mixture of the recipe. So it's like we're gonna get some new, we're gonna get some old. Like this show's gonna feel very familiar. So, did you think killing Foggy off or putting the high stakes in the beginning was the best move, or would you are like I think this was good, but some fans were like, you know what, they should have kept him, or if they were gonna do this, just do it off screen. Like, what do you?
Nah, no, doing it off screen is cowardly. And
Yeah,
honestly, it's a miss. I'm a big pro wrestling guy, right? Like
yeah,
the payoff sometimes is seeing something like this happen. Like
yep,
having it happen off screen would have just felt like a cop out. And to me as a viewer, would have been like, oh, they probably couldn't have got those actors back or something
yep,
like
yep.
that. Like it would have just been some assumption that they did it for a reason and not
Mhm.
to build the story or to have it be about Matt kind of moving on. I do
Yeah,
think that there's some poetry to it, right? Like there is the like killing off of the old series and moving on with the new series, and they did
hmm,
it visually, metaphorically. They literally did it with a character that's been Matt's best friend this entire time. So
yep,
I'm glad they did it because Marvel stuff is formulaic. That's
yep.
people's biggest complaint, right? So even when they have stakes like this, like you said, happens at the end of the episode, and then it's a cliffhanger, and then realistically on the other side of episode 2 or 3, we go get him back or whatever. And
Or
I'm
they,
still waiting for Gambit to get him back here some way, but that's a whole other story. But anyway,
yeah, like, or
there's
or or you get
there's
like
stakes
a
though. Like I
yeah,
feel
like
like
you get
that's
a
the biggest thing.
MacGuffin or some sort. Like the next episode is like this is gonna be the key to bringing this character back. So
Yeah,
at the end of the
exactly.
day, nobody
And
really no there was no consequences.
right,
But
right.
so
And that's what
and
makes
then
us care. We care
yep,
about this, especially when we vested time into these characters. And you know, then you go and kill them off. And like I said, it changes the vibe immediately because it was like, hey, all right, cool, Daredevil's back, and then it was like, hey, the gang's all here, and I was literally like, oh, they brought everybody back. That's cool. And I was saying it out loud to my wife while we were watching it,
it's
and
like,
then
yeah, this is
boom, nope, no, they
awesome.
didn't.
Like
You
we're
know, and
back,
so
baby.
yeah, and I mean, again, I like the way they advanced it. I like the I guess, you know, you gave Matt the proper motivation to walk away from this entire life, this vigilante life that he's leading and do something different and go back to the world that he wanted to live, which is being a lawyer, you know?
Yep. So right after this, we see the shift. We see like Matt mentally break for at least in the moment, and then he just
Yeah.
started pummeling Bullseye and just beating the crap out of him. Like I love that he didn't do like super macho, like oh I'm gonna throw him off the roof. He kind of like he threw him off. It was like in disgust, like he was
Yeah.
done
I'm
with
done
him.
with you. You're
Like
trash
he
and I'm throwing
just
you away.
like he didn't even push him. He just like kind of let
Right.
him go, and then he fell. And then the way he bounced like that, when you see Karen Page's face knowing that Foggy's dead, and then she didn't even look at him, but she
Yeah.
knew that Matt crossed the line. It was like shit.
I don't
And
even know if that I think she might have even thought it was Matt for a second, right? Like
yeah,
she didn't know who fell off the roof and was dead. She didn't know who won that fight, right? But like
yeah,
that's like that's the most non-heroic part of that whole situation is the fact
yeah,
that like essentially, yeah, he had Bullseye beat at that point. Like he was done and he just did the thing. He tossed him off the building and I mean
yep.
I like all of that was very shocking to me. Not
And
shocking
then
to me that good old Benjamin Poindexter there wasn't dead when they gave him
I
that
mean,
little bit of
a lot of people were confused, but then I'm like, he's enhanced. They kind of hinted at this when I think when they brought him back to life. I think in the previous season he was
yeah,
in when he got really hurt.
yeah,
Like they put something in him or operated him like they had some type of enhancement in him.
right.
But like yo, still the way he bounced up and down, and then of course you have
It was
the
wild.
reason why everybody was there, you know, Officer Cherry come through, and then like right after Matt just like breaks down and throws off his helmet. And you know, another content creator said something that I think was very telling, that he took off his helmet not because you know he was upset. He took it off because the moment that he killed that he thought he killed Bullseye, he felt that he didn't deserve the helmet anymore, that he wasn't
Yeah,
being heroic. He
yeah,
became
yeah, yeah.
exactly what Frank Castle told them in like season 2, that you're just a bad day away from being me. And that was telling, and he was like shit, I'm this whole high and mighty superhero trying to change Frank, and yeah, like I did the same exact thing. And then, it was crazy. Then we had the rest of the episode, which,
Yeah.
we get like a year later, we see the Foggy funeral card in Braille. And then do you think what kind of choice do you think they made here to like not include the funeral? Like, were you cool with that? Or were you like, you understood that they needed to move forward and you kind of like had to get there?
I don't need another funeral scene. I don't think
Okay.
it's gonna do anything other than like again with these kind of movies and with these kind of stories, especially considering that at one point in the comic books, Foggy did get killed, supposedly, and it was actually to put him in the witness protection program, but
Yeah.
it was one of those comic book cliffhangers where he got killed and then was gone for a while and then he came back because there's your MacGuffin. He was put into into hiding, because someone was trying to kill him, right? This is different because we saw him bleed out. Matt heard his heart stop. Matt heard him take his last breath. Like, there's no faking this. And I think sometimes for like, yeah, bye, baby. I'm just saying, no.
Never,
I mean,
never
like,
say
the
never.
funeral scene
Never
for
say
me is
never.
what they're trying to like solidify it.
Yeah, like never say never in wrestling. Like I don't think he's coming back
Right.
at all this season, but you never know. We might have season 2, and they're like, hey, like they already said that Karen Page and Foggy, the actors, are coming back, but we don't know if it's a flashback. We don't know if it's like
in what capacity.
just Matt like thinking about something, or it could be a flashback that Karen is having or whatever. Like who knows? So we fast forward a year later. Like, what do you think? You see Matt is looking good, looking healthy, you know what I mean? And then, you see he's in a new law firm with the DA that Foggy was macking to,
Yep.
It appears Detective Cherry's working for them and everything. So like, and she kind of reminds him like, hey, are you gonna be okay? And then it's like he's gonna have to testify at Poindexter's trial. So when we get to the trial, what did you think was going to happen? Like, what did you think that as soon as Poindexter was brought out that he was going to snitch on Matt? What's up with that? Or do you think?
Well, no, I mean that's what I took away from it. That's what I thought was going to happen. So like everything kind of moved and like that's one thing with this show so far is it feels like everything you think they're going to do, they kind of do the opposite, right? Like I thought this was going to be the big like Spider-Man moment for Matt where, here he is in court, basically being outed as the Daredevil and it wasn't that. Definitely
So, do
wasn't
you
that.
think that they wasted an opportunity there, or do you think that that it kind of falls in line with the character of Poindexter? Because
It
remember,
does. It does fall in line with him, right? It's like it's one of his things in the comic book. It's why essentially in the comics, right? Like Bullseye is his greatest arch nemesis, right? Like it's his it's the guy that's the duality to his coin, the other side to his coin, right? So like I think there's something to that, like some honor there, that he has like as a warrior. But I also wait to see how things play out, right? Like we're 2 episodes in and I don't judge any of the storytelling things that have happened so far until I see where they're going with stuff. And I try to do that with these shows, right? I do want to watch them week to week because I feel like that's the best way to get the comic book vibe off of these shows. Like the way we used to go, when you had a favorite comic book coming out new, you go out that week every month to go pick up that new episode, right? Like, or that new issue. So I feel like that these shows deliver on that, and like doing comic book stuff as a show is more comic book like than anything else you can do, really. Like, and that's why these feel the way they do. But I mean, also, the minute that you start getting, Wilson Fisk back on TV, here we go.
Yep. So speaking of Fisk, like we see him, he's like, what is he eating? He's eating like this codfish or something
Yes,
with like
the
orange
healthiest
juice.
looking meal you've ever seen in your life.
And then,
Like
and then he's like
one piece
eating
of
it
asparagus.
real dainty and stuff. And like, he's like, they have like this split screen almost. So like they keep going back and forth. When Matt was getting ready, he's like going through his suits and you see the iconic white suit. He's like, no, no.
Touching them.
He's like, no, 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 no. He grabs another suit, and it's like you see him and Vanessa interact weirdly. Like, wait, no, excuse me, she's not even there.
Yeah.
And he gets dressed, and then we're dropped into this mob boss meeting where Vanessa is like kind of like the queen pin at this particular point. Like, what do you think is going on there? Do you think like of course this takes place after Echo, after Fisk is recovered from the super comic book he shot to the face, where they still somehow he was alive, and like he's kind of like more laid back, like what do you
He
think
has a
is
hell of
going
an
on there? Like,
optometrist.
yeah, like bro, like, do you think like when she was talking to him and saying like, oh, the guys are happy with the way things are going right now, how much of that is because they're scared of Fisk, or how much is that they're scared of her, or they're happy with her results?
I think it's because Wilson Fisk runs things with fear, and she was running things with logic and money, and trying
Okay.
to make everybody see that if they all played nice together, like
Mhm.
a good collaborator would, right? Like bringing people together. We all make money. Nobody's got to die. We don't have to be having gunfights in the street. And here's the cut, and this is what you guys are going to make. You're going to make millions of dollars, and it's all good. I think like I was actually expecting Wilson to not even interact with that meeting. My
Mhm.
thought when they showed that was that after what happened at the end of Echo, right? Like that he was gone and removed from that world. I thought that was the metaphor with the suit, right? Passing up the
Yeah.
white suit to go to the dark suit.
But
And
it kind of did happen because he didn't even acknowledge anybody.
right.
Like
They
they were
just
like, oh, they were like,
left.
hey, like they just left. He didn't even look at them. It was like, it's like, if you walk in, like, let's say your wife is having like a book club or something, and they have people over, and you like don't even talk to him. You're like, hey, do you got a second? And then everybody just silently
Just
walks
walk in
out.
and people are like, oh god.
Like, I gotta go. And it's like I haven't played in the background, and it's like the way he walks in, he's like smaller and everything, but you can tell he's still like his eyes, man, and his little twitch that he was doing with his hands, and he just comes out and goes, Vanessa, and it's like that's all he says, and everybody's like, you know what? Yeah, I think I left my car double park. I gotta go. Like,
You know what? Send that money. You wire the money. I'll wire the money. Or I'll bring cash. Whatever you want me to do. I'll see you later.
So jumping a little bit ahead. So the guy with the what I like to call the sweatsuit mobster, the guy with like the little break suit or whatever the hell, the soccer suit, like I thought he, like the way he looked at Fisk, I'm like, man, this guy really trying to try him. Like I thought, I was like, oh, here we go. He's going for the crown. He's doing something. And like, so their first interaction, Fisk and his wife, what did you think was going on there? Like it felt like they haven't seen each other, but I felt like he like hasn't really talked to her.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and she doesn't know anything, or like he's like just moped around the house and all this stuff. Like, what was your takeaway?
It was weird because like I don't know, where has he been? He didn't look like he was very far away, considering the timing from when he was picking out his suit, getting dressed, to being down there. It seemed like it's just the garage of their house or whatever.
Mhm.
So I don't know. Yeah, like all of that seemed a bit convoluted. I think that they might be, maybe with their writing, going a little
Mhm.
bit too far with some of this, hey, where have you been kind of stuff, like why doesn't she know? I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe she's too wrapped up in the business. Maybe she doesn't care. I didn't even know if they were like still together or what was going on, right? Like
Well,
that wasn't.
we definitely know in his mind that
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
still
yeah, yeah.
together. Like you can't obsess over somebody that crazy and then like a couple years later be like, oh, it's okay. Like I'm good.
Moving on.
Like we all know that relationship is not going to end positively if it
Right.
ever ends. Like
Right.
if they go the comic book route.
It's
So
toxic in the best possible way.
yeah, like they're not good people, both of them. So so we're at the trial. Karen Page pulls up like she was there last week, and then through exposition dump that they do in their conversation, it's been a year. She's been living in San Francisco, and like they have this awkward conversation that I felt like Matt, like in a way, he wanted it to end. Like the convo. Like, what do you like? You think he's just that far removed, or like what do you think is happening there? Like, you think like her being around represents like his greatest failure, and like it brings him back to that dark place?
Yeah, that's well said. That's probably exactly it, right? Like, and it seems like, they obviously don't have a relationship anymore. Like that was confirmed by that. It's not like they're still seeing each other or they're still talking regularly. So there's that.
Yep.
But I think it comes down to, there's a tragedy that happens. There's something traumatic that happens in your life, and unfortunately, you can associate it with a place or a thing or a person, and like seeing her every single time probably brings back that exact night. You know what I mean? But again, it seems like his general way of coping with this situation was to disconnect himself and move on, like just keep it pushing down the road, right? And so like now he's trying to do that, and like any kind of attachment like that kind of brings him back to what he's trying to escape from.
Do you think she was a good friend bringing back the broken horn? Like why you could have just tossed that? Like nobody, it didn't look like anything. Like what's up with that? Like she's like in my mind is like, oh, I know you're trying to get over something, but here you go. Here's a toxic reminder of that
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. No, I don't. I mean, I think it's more of like this is an important part of your life, like you are this thing that you were, and you did good as the Daredevil. Like you shouldn't completely abandon it. It's not like your powers have gone anywhere. You're still this absolute maniac that can whoop anyone's ass at the
Yeah,
drop of
and
a hat.
and let's be honest. I felt like he like Matt was using his patrols at night to let off a lot of steam. Like he's a
Yeah.
real intense dude. Like
Yeah.
and it bubbles up to the surface a couple times. So like this, like they're trying to give us a whole new Matt. They're trying to give us that he's chilling and his life is good because his legal partner says like, oh, we got this client, can you go meet with them? And then lo and behold, they're pulling the old sitcom routine, and it's like,
Done that with a couple of my friends.
yeah, but initially when she was like, yeah, I'm a therapist, I was like, God damn, everybody thinks Matt is broken, but
Yeah,
then it was,
I thought they
then
were trapping. I was like, trapping him into therapy. That doesn't seem like the best idea.
but then it was like, nah, you guys both need to like get funky with each other.
Yeah,
Like
you guys should smash.
both, yeah, like you both need some ASAP. And then like it's crazy to me. Like I don't know if I would be cool with that. Like if a coworker did that. Like I know it's what they call meet cutes, but it's like, yeah, that's kind of going over the line. Like I don't know
Yeah.
how big like you were supposed to be legal partners, and you're like, yeah, I think you should go get some ass.
I think like it's the fact that you sometimes you're like you're impressed by how they know you, right? Like they know you enough that they couldn't have just told you, hey, you should go meet my friend for a drink, and
Yep.
they couldn't have set you up on a blind date. They couldn't actually get you to go on anything romantic at all that
Mhm.
you in any way would perceive that they were trying to get you to meet a woman. So they did this, and so there's that moment where you kind of probably appreciate that they at least went that far to try to do something for you. And I mean, Matt needs somebody there's got to be a vulnerable Achilles heel for him. And it's always in the people that he knows and the people that he loves. So he has to have somebody else. He has to have some other person now that means a lot to him so that someone can murder them or kidnap them or do something terrible to them.
It's
And
like
then
we
have him
need you. We
speak his
need to
revenge.
give you a crutch. Well, so then we start seeing the weird things like unfolding. Like number one, um, you see the Kingpin, being told that he has enough signature. Well, he told Vanessa, and then they kind of like he's thrusted, and then like in the background, he's like giving a speech concerning things, and he's full campaign.
Yeah.
When he runs into Matt, and they give us that Heat-esque meeting in the diner.
It's good.
Like like that is good. I think the most telling part of that scene is I think both of them are wearing their masks.
Yes.
Like, because I think
Yes.
Fisk is definitely not Fisk. He's Kingpin. Like, that's his true identity.
Yeah.
And Matt wears the Matt mask, but he's definitely Daredevil. Like I feel like he feels more like himself when he's like that. And they have like this weird paranoid like I got my eye on you, and then it's like I got my eye on you too. And it's like the whole conversation, it's like very double worded, like oh, like I hope everything is good. It's like, but you almost try to kill me, and like it's a very.
And I'm glad you're
convo.
saying that. I'm glad you're saying that because at a point during that conversation, I was like, does he want him to work for him or does he want him to never show his face in this town again? What does he want here? Like, does he want to make sure Daredevil never comes back, or is he telling him he wants Daredevil to come back and fight on his behalf? I don't understand what's going on.
Like, you know what? The promo material is very misleading in this way, at least for me, because I thought that this meeting was going to happen later on. Like, there was going to be a big bad that emerged, that they have to sit down and put their differences aside for now and kind of like save New York.
Yeah.
But
that was the bull, like in that's how they like they crippled Bullseye over there. Like didn't they both like fight him in the old show or whatever, right? Like, so yeah, they have those moments. They have their moments.
But like, no, it's more like, hey, I still hate your guts.
I hate you too.
like I don't know why you're running for mayor, and he's like, I don't know why you're not beating people up at night. It's like, well, you don't do that, I won't do this. It's like we both got our eye on each other, and it's like if it was a cartoon, it's like two people like getting up slowly at the same time and like walk okay like and then it's punctuated by the tension being broken by a fan like knocking on the door like Fisk, and then it's kind of like that's where the conversation ends. And then
and I like what you said there, just taking a step back about them. Like they're both in there, like they're both being their real identities, right? But those real identities aren't their true selves, right?
Yeah.
This is him parading as a lawyer when deep down inside he's this vigilante crime fighter, and this is him parading as a mayoral candidate when deep down inside he's this, kingpin, this thug, this, this supervillain, right? And like
at this point, do you believe him? Do you believe Wilson Fisk has turned the corner? You think
I don't believe he's turned the corner, but I believe what he was saying when he was telling Vanessa, which is that he has to completely disconnect from that world altogether. It's not even like he can still do those tactics, or can he? Because we very quickly see later that it didn't take long for him to start resorting to his old tactics as Kingpin, as mayor, right? Once he was out there doing stuff,
But you got to realize, like we had it like in another pod that I did concerning these first two episodes. I pointed out that although this was something that was kind of like, oh, it's real Kingpin-esque, but no, I felt like it was just a politician. It was very political.
I guess you're right.
There was no threat to violence.
We're trying some stuff like that. Like, oh, you try some bullshit? Well, I'm gonna hold a gun to your head. Like that'd be what Kingpin would do. But instead, he was like, "Nah, what about your illegitimate son?"
Like, you know what I mean? And then he didn't even say nothing. He was like, "It'd be ashamed of this picture."
Picture of a kid and a girl. I was like, what is it? His wife? Is he threatening him?
Yeah, I thought it, but then I was like, no.
The slow play I'm telling you on that was good, but we're jumping ahead.
Yeah, so it's like, so then you know you get the campaign, and then you get James Gandolfini's son. Hey, Staten Island, they love you. I immediately got annoyed by that guy, but then
Oh
it's
yeah,
like he
I
was
was like,
so
I
New
need this
York.
kid to die.
Like, it's like he looks like he could be his son. Hopefully,
Yeah.
we get something like that. Like, wait, who's your mom? And it's like, but so at this point, you got Vanessa like at the party. Like at this point, didn't he hasn't won yet, or he's about to win? They're at the
Yeah,
campaign,
yeah, I think he's about to get announced as a winner.
and she's like drinking, like being a drunken wife, like just like glaring at him from another fucking thing. And then they get that poignant conversation where he comes up to her and it was like, listen, you might think I'm soft, but I know this, I know that, I know this.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't threaten her, but it's kind of like, yeah, I know about your side, dude. And I had to rewatch this episode 3 times to realize that we don't know who this guy he talked about is, Adam.
Right.
We don't know who he is.
Right.
Like I was like, is this somebody from episode from like the previous Netflix? Is this like the guy that was staring at the kingpin in the mob meeting? No, it's just some guy that we don't know yet. And then the fact that he was like, no, I didn't do anything to him, or he's alive. What do you think about that? Do you think he's telling the truth? You think he was kind of like, I can't be without her? Like, yo, like, what are you doing? Like, or you think
I think he's telling the truth, but I also like the fact that there's all this vagueness with all this stuff. Like I love storytelling that comes together eventually. I don't
Mhm.
like stuff being super obvious. It was like a lot of this in this show so far. I have actually wondered if I was missing something from the old show, and then I realized like, nah, they're just kind of being cagey. You know,
Yep.
like I said with that conversation, right? It's the same kind of thing where I did that with this, where I had to rewind it because I thought I missed something, right? So
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know with some of this stuff. But like again, I think from what we've seen so far, you know, Fisk has to kind of distance himself from killing people and doing stuff like this, right? Like, so I mean, it feels like he's got to kind of be telling the truth.
So towards the tail end of episode 1, because we're going to talk about episode 2 kind of a little bit quicker than we did episode 1, because episode 1 needs to be fully digested. Because
There was a lot.
There's a lot. Like we start seeing the cracks in Matt. He starts coming off like the crazy uncle when he's on the date with the girl, and he's like, he won, and she's like, what are you talking about? It's like, oh, Wilson Fisk, and she's like, oh, that's cool. Like, you know, it's like no, he's evil. He's like flipping out, and she's like, oh, okay, like, are you good? Like he's doing all this. He's giving this therapist so many red flags on their first date, and it's like at that point, like at the end of episode 1, I was like, man, is he gonna be cracked all season? Like,
Right.
is he gonna be like, I know he's doing something? like
Well, and it's very Trump adjacent too, right? Like I
Yeah.
feel like the entire thing that they were doing with Fisk, I mean, felt very real with what we have
Yes,
going on in real life,
2025.
and they leaned into it. You know, I feel like they had all those people cheering in the streets and shit like that. Like there was a lot of that there, and I mean that's what it comes down to, right? Like in a way, he knows, we the audience know. We know what a bad guy he is. He knows what a bad guy he is, right? But like she doesn't. And even he, like, what's wild about it wasn't when he was cracking to me. It was when he was starting to be like, I don't know, maybe I guess he will be a good mayor or whatever. Like he started like just giving up. And it was like
he started negotiating with
don't
himself.
give up.
But then the crazy thing is, the poignant thing is when he dropped her off and kissed her, and he started walking the street, like his demeanor completely changed.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he like people were bumping into him, and he was just like, you know, they have Kingpin looking over Batman-esque over the city, and I was like, this is not going to be good for anybody involved. Right. And that's basically how they end the first episode. And then how do you think, was that a good starting point, like for the series in general?
Yeah, I think it was. I think the end of the first episode fell just a little flat, but I think they got their point across, which was like what it's like to be Matt, what it's like to like we all know what a badass he is, but he can't be that. And so he just has to have this quiet rage inside of him as he walks around and like gets his shoulder bumped by these maniacs all celebrating
And he like
another
just stoic.
maniac being elected into power.
Yeah,
And
he
like
just
you can just get, you can see, like you said, it's to the boiling point. It's to the point where he's getting ready to be pushed over the edge and he's trying to hold back,
yeah.
and I think that's kind of appropriate considering everything that we saw in the first episode, right? Like the first episode was so much for Matt, and here he is at the end just trying to hold it all together, and we know he's not going to. We know he can't.
Yeah, and then you get that what I think is going to be iconic, that cinematography where the spotlight is hitting Wilson Fisk and it's like white, and then Matt stops and like the red is just like all over his face. Is like,
they're
oh
so
man,
good at that with this show. Like,
yeah, they're like oh,
everything,
this is
like
gonna
the
be
fight
crazy.
scenes, everything. I give it. The only problem I had was there were a couple of scenes that I felt like were CGI, and then they
Mhm.
actually weren't. But I don't know if they did something to those scenes that made it come across like that. Like, I think there might have been some added, like they added like smoke or dust or something. They
Yeah,
clouded up some scenes and they used CGI to do that. And it was like, you didn't need to do that. And the
hey
scene would
man,
have been fine without any kind of touching up, but
the
it's
mouse
minor,
was like, we got
minor
money,
stuff.
bro. We got money. Like
Dude.
we gotta do whatever we want with this.
And they did a good job. They did a good job of making the little things, because like they always try to keep Daredevil somewhat grounded, right? We don't really get to see the super comic book like esque jumping from building to building and doing some of the stuff. And like, again, it doesn't have to be super obvious. Like the way they did it in this one, and this little tiny bit was perfect. And
Mhm.
yeah, I liked what they did. I just, they came off so hot. I didn't know how they were gonna kind of outdo the first 10 minutes. And I thought that they did a good job in the second episode of going in a direction that you can kind of see where this is going,
Yep.
and see how, they're going to pull him back into this, and there's no way he can't be Daredevil.
So, did you immediately know who he was after the incident when they said his name, Hector Ayala? Did you know?
Oh, no, I did not. I did not know immediately.
Okay, but like you kind of like know where this is going and
Oh yeah.
everything.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
absolutely. And not to say, not just that, but like when he came down and beat two dudes' asses, I was like, oh, this dude's somebody,
yeah.
Like I was like, this guy's obviously somebody.
And you know what? In the climate that we live, man, maybe like if this would have came out 4 or 5 years ago, this would have boiled my blood pressure would have gone up. Like when all of a sudden, like the one cop trips and dies, the other cop immediately like takes out his badge. It's like, hey,
Yep.
Edward. And I was like, dog, like you didn't say who you were the entire time. And then we have Murdoch there, just chilling in the precinct, and then all of a sudden he's like, he hears it. He hears the cop talking, like, oh, like we're gonna get him, or blah blah. He got tuned up. Like that's what I felt like. That was more Matt than anything when he walked in and took his case, and it was kind of like what was going on this entire
Yes.
time and everything.
Yeah.
So
Like,
so what did you
and sorry to
think?
cut you off. What I was
Go
going to
ahead.
say though is, I love that stuff, man. I love when the people making these shows don't just go through the motions, but like read the comic books and start to
Mhm.
get what they were about. Like my daughter told me before we started watching this that she didn't want to watch it because it was going to be too lawyery. And I
Mm.
swear to God, midway through the second episode, I was like, you know what? She wasn't wrong. This is so far it's a pretty lawyery show. Like, I mean,
But it's like a good show.
some action, but it's definitely
It's
more
like Law and
lawyery so
Order
far than
without the
anything.
rape. It's like Law and Order SVU without the rape.
Yes.
It's like oh, okay. Like so
I was like, is he gonna help a different superhero every week? Like he's gonna defend She-Hulk next week, and maybe like who else the week after that?
I mean that was She-Hulk's downfall. The fact that
right. It really
like
was. It really was.
she was trying to be Ally McBeal with like superhero powers, and I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know about this. Like so
I'm never. I want to die. I've never heard it referred to that, but that's totally what it was.
yes.
Even the comedy in it was totally.
It's like, girl, like he's cute, and then like it's
God.
like, oh shit, like they
That's
really went
hilarious.
full Ally McBeal. So we get Wilson Fisk already is showing that he has zero patience. because when he's driving to the thing, first of all, he like stopped and he's like, hey, I'm the mayor. Go fill this hole up. Go do this and that.
Yeah.
And it was like people were seeing him. I was like, no, this man, his patience is wearing very thin. Because before this, we've seen him like, I want this done. It gets done. No matter what it is, it gets done. People listen, and he started to notice that the bureaucracy and the politics of it all, it's really hard for him to get around the red tape and
Right.
as a mayor.
He's a
like,
man of action, right?
yeah,
And
it's
that's what's funny. It's the common thread between the two of them.
yep.
Right? Like they like the two of them are trying to do things the right way, but secretly they're like, screw it. I just want to beat your ass and make you do it the way because I'm a superhero deep down inside, right? Like, so they're trying to not be that. They're both trying to like be a normal person in society, but neither one of them are a normal person in society, and they're both trying hard to not revert back to their old selves.
I was very happy that the construction worker did not mouth back at him.
Yeah.
he was like, all right, you're the boss. Like he said, I just need an approval. He's like, consider me this being the approval. He's like, hey, say no more. Like, I thought it was gonna be like, oh, you gotta talk to the union guys and Tony.
Go screw yourself.
like we got too much time. Like, so I like the fact that like I want them to have a conversation at a certain point throughout this series where the former detective Cherry is kind of like, hey man, I kept the secret for you. Or like I guess I gotta go back and fully rewatch all the episodes because I saw I skimmed through the last like 4 or 5. Like I know they were friends, but I didn't realize that they were friends to a point that he'll cover for him like this.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Like I know Bullseye didn't die, but it's like, bro, you know who the Daredevil is. Like through most of the Netflix series, the cops did not like Daredevil. So the fact that now that the one cop knows that, it was kind of telling. But then he's also like very mouthy to him in episode 2. He's like, listen, I want to, and he's like, bro, a cop died. Do you think this guy didn't do it? And he's like, well, he got tuned up. Like this really emphasized that like the boys in blue, and I thank everybody. I have a lot of family members and friends that are cops, but they're like, nope. They're like, we want a reason, we want an answer, and we want somebody to punish when it comes to one of our own dies. And it kind of like it took Matt a while to like get him on board. And like, what did you think of the whole trial scene? Like, do you think that the show was kind of taken in a different direction with this? Like, how did you feel that this is how we get introduced to who eventually we find out is the White Tiger? I knew immediately because of the name.
Yeah, right.
Like,
right.
so,
but like, I think that obviously it's cool to introduce another character in the way that they've done it. Right. It did kind of feel like Law and Order, or one of those things, the way that like the episode kind of started out with the crime being committed or the thing happening, the incident happening, and then us going through the trial and everything. But again, this is one of those things that I'm interested to see where it leads. Feels like we're getting Daredevil and White Tiger teaming up and whooping ass together, and like, yes, I'm on. Sign me up for that 100%. Right?
I really hope that happens, and because if it would have happened, it has to be the season, because unfortunately the actor that played him passed from cancer. So yeah, like he was like, I believe he was like 30, 46 or something like that. Yeah, so like it was something that I read the other day about it. Like,
so did he pass during the filming of this?
I don't know if he passed. No, he passed December 2024. It was Christmas Eve that he passed, and it was kind of like I feel like the show was already in pre-production and already like in the can at this point. So hopefully we get to see him on screen as White Tiger, outside of that little clip that we saw in episode 1.
Yeah,
that was kind of like a throwaway news clip. And You know, we saw more of, you know, Mrs. Staten Island guy, you know, talking to Fisk. It's like, hey, oh, like, you know, what can I do? Like, what do you think his purpose is? Like, I feel he looks too much like Fisk to not be like I don't think he's gonna be his kid or not like that. That's great. But I just think like this is gonna be somebody that Kingpin has a soft spot for.
Yeah, yes, yeah. It's gonna be his version, perhaps, of the guys, the friends of Matt that I was talking
Yeah,
about, where it makes him, makes him perhaps susceptible in some way. I
yeah,
feel like it's just one of those guys that's going to like pump him up and egg him on, and he's going to replace his top people with this idiot, and he's just going to have kind of this henchman, with him. But I don't know, your idea of him being a kid seems almost entirely too likely. Like he just
yeah,
he seems, not only does he love him like a kid would love him, but he has a lot of the same attributes. I don't know
yeah,
though. They say Kingpin's all muscle. There's the
yeah.
difference there. It's the reason why he was eating the fish and the one piece of asparagus.
Yeah, like it was weird, and that was his breakfast. That
Yeah, that's his breakfast, right?
like I was like,
It's a
what? Like what
maniac
is this?
breakfast. That's it shows he's clearly insane.
So BB is, you know, the young lady that they introduce is behind those like man on the street documentary skits
Yeah.
that we've been getting throughout. She immediately like starts being a habitual line stepper. Like, like she gets a sit down interview with the Kingpin and immediately starts saying the wrong things and makes everybody nervous and look bad. Like, do you think she's gonna end up in a body bag like her uncle?
Probably. I don't know though. I feel like I feel like that's too obvious,
Mhm.
right? Like she's going to be a nuisance and she's going to be of importance in some way, but I don't know if it's going to be for Kingpin's benefit or against his benefit. I don't know. I
Yeah,
still feel like the way that they introduced her, he's going to get her to work for him in some way, but the
yeah,
body
I
bag
think
also is
he's
very
gonna
suitable.
manipulate her in a certain way. Like, I don't
Yeah,
know, man.
exactly.
Like, I really hope that she has a good role. So then
And
we
manipulate's the right word, by the way, because I feel like that's what he does really well. He does it. He coerces you in some way, shape, or form. It could be through flattery. It could be through money. It could be
Mhm.
through threatening your loved ones. It could be through threatening to release information about you. It could be blackmail. He finds a way to get to you, and he knows exactly what
hey,
your thing
they
is.
you know, they should call Wilson Fisk the king of Riz because
Yeah.
that man be laying it down. And then we get, you know, to Matt's girlfriend, the doctor, the therapist at a book signing.
Yep.
And the thing that alarmed me the most about this is that she's at a book signing. She's obviously somewhat famous. And the first person that she like interacts with, or at least they show, she's like, oh my god, I love you and all this, and like you're, and then she's like can you see me? And she's like, yeah, okay, here's my information. I'm like, who the hell does that? Like,
Have better judgment. Use better judgment than that.
like I don't know who this guy is, but it's like at that point it leads me to believe that Matt is not in good hands because this chick does not know anything. Like I
Like,
don't
here's
know who
my
that
home
dude.
phone number. Here's
Yeah,
my address. Here
yeah,
are the times when I'll be home alone.
and the
And
guy,
here's when I shower.
yeah, like this guy looks unhinged. I don't know who he's gonna be. But then on top of that, they give us a double whammy. You got the British dude
Yep.
that is like, oh no, all I want is this signature. And then like in a very creepy, he's like, yes. Like they needed to do was him to put the book with gloves on into the bag. And I was like, what the hell's the Kingpin doing? And then of course, you know, the Kingpin still being Kingpin. He before, you know, the threatening of the police chief or the commissioner, my man shows up at a funeral for the cop that dies. And like doesn't show up for the funeral, shows up
Shows up
after.
after it.
And it was like, hey, bro, like you know I've been looking for you. And like
I
yo,
knew
this
you'd
is
be here.
like
That's a
yo,
wild move. That's why I knew you would be here at another cop's funeral. Is a wild
it's
move.
like, and I'm the mayor, but I'm not making face for the funeral. I'm just here to
Yeah.
because you were here and we need to talk. And It's like insane.
I actually got here 45 minutes earlier. I've just been sitting in the car.
In the car, like I didn't want to sit through a funeral. I don't even know that guy. Like, why am I even here? Like, that's your job. He's like, you wouldn't come to like an aide of mine's funeral. That's it's a cop. Like, I don't know. Like, it was like, he like Wilson Fisk is a menace. He's a menace. And then all of a sudden, Matt is having dinner. He gets called by Terry and he tells him, my man pulled up to jail. Like immediately that day was like, my man, what's going on with this? And then he's like, what? Like, and he's like, you got to tell me everything. I felt like that was a shift.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I think old Matt Murdock would have been like, listen, you could trust me. Like, I thought he was gonna punch through the glass. Like, why didn't you tell me this? It's like, bro, like, what did you think about that whole interaction?
Well, it's because, like, first of all, I would think if there was somebody that would be understanding about you not telling someone about your secret identity, it would be Matt Murdock, aka the Daredevil, right? Like, yeah, I guess I understand why you didn't tell me that, but at the same time, like, yeah, that's kind of important as your defense attorney. I think that I think you're right. He would have approached it differently. I also think the fact that he's doing it for free, kind of out of the kindness of his heart, makes him feel like, my God, why couldn't I'm trying to do everything I can to win this, and you're not helping me at all in any way, shape, or form.
Did you see his slight reaction when he was like, the Daredevil's not around, I'm just trying to help people, and he was like, hey, bro, like take it easy on that Daredevil. Like, and then of course,
remember who you're talking to.
Yeah, it's like, wait, what do you mean? Like, oh, nothing, bro. And then all of a sudden, you get Wilson Fisk. I'm looking at the scene in the background now. Like, is he eating the cheesesteak with a knife and a fork, or he's like?
I think so. Yeah.
And he's like, does his little,
and then he brings in a guy from Philadelphia to watch him eat a cheese. Like, that might be more cruel than the picture, is watching him eat a cheesesteak with a knife and a fork.
Yeah, and then it's like, hey, does this, like, hey, what are we gonna do with this? He's like, it'd be a shame. Like, I feel like that happens on a daily basis in the Capitol. Like, I feel like in DC, like people that are like, I am not gonna vote for that bill, and all of a sudden, I think it's a good idea. It's like some shit like this happened. Like they got caught with their head in the cookie jar.
You think your wife wants to know about your OnlyFans account? No, I didn't think so. I think he'll be approving that bill. Everybody, I think he'll be approving that bill.
It's like, I'm very grateful that you changed your mind for this. It's like, and then on top of that, like I felt like, I like the fact that Kingpin said, not that he didn't like cheesesteaks, he hated the one that he bought because it was like outside of King of Prussia, which is like outside of Philly. It's not really Philly proper. And I was like, yo, that is hilarious. Like, that's how you tell how big of a petty motherfucker he is. He went and got a prop. And like, he could easily be like, yeah, I went and stopped for a cheesesteak. Like, no, he wanted to sit there and see the guy see that he's eating it. So he's not messing around. He could have just showed him the picture.
There's some off-screen preparation that needed to go on in this fictitious world. He needed to have that cheesesteak heated up. They didn't just get it, right? Like, they needed to be like looking down from the building and being like, hey, he's here. Go throw it in the microwave real fast. Go put it. Bring me a napkin. You know what he's gonna hate? He's a Philly guy, right? Bring me a knife and a fork. He will hate that shit.
And then like, his number two, man, that guy's like a Swiss Army knife for like Kingpin. He's out there like co-signing his burn about cheesesteaks. He's like just bantering with him. It's like
showing up to do book signings.
It's like, this guy's like doing everything.
Yeah.
So, like, skipping ahead, finding out about what's going to happen with the cop, like him following him. I like that. How did you feel the use of his hearing was there? Do you think they
That
kind
was
of
one
like,
of the
all right,
that was one of those
guys?
scenes where it went a little far. Yeah, like the guy was so far ahead of him. Um, he honed in on his particular sneakers, the sound his sneakers was making. That was what the impression I got there was,
It's
right?
like,
And it's
it,
like, you mean to
yeah,
tell me that with all these people walking around here, that you heard one dude sneaker? Like, it would have been different if the guy was on a phone call while he was walking or something like that, right? Like
yeah.
something that at least tracked a little bit more believable. But come on, man. Sneakers.
And then it's like it's a weird situation because you're like, okay, I as a human being, if you play me a 30-second clip of a song and then 10 minutes later play like a mashup of different songs and you can tell me at which point was this clip, I might not get it right.
Oh yeah. No.
But he like,
No.
yeah, locked in, the gate,
I
the
got
type of the way, like I got it 30
Yeah.
seconds in. Like
He's like a
I'm in there.
cartoon dog getting the sniff
Yeah.
on some sneakers.
Yeah.
Here you go, boy. Oh, I got him. Ah.
Yeah. And then, he's following him, and then we get like this very Soprano-esque like therapist thing. Like, I didn't know where this was going. But when I saw the therapist signing the NDAs, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
Fisk and Vanessa, do you think at this point he knows that she's dating Matt Murdock? Or it's kind of like he saw her because she was on TV and it was kind of like, let's vet her and see if this works in our situation?
I think it's like, I think we can all relate to this. There's people in your life that you don't want in your life, but somehow they just keep coming back around, and it'll be like, oh man, I met this guy today. And then you're like, who's this guy? And it's like, oh, it's this guy. And you're like, shit,
like,
I hate that guy.
Yeah.
Like, that's how that like it feels like that. Like I don't really know. I think that they wanted there wasn't like a spying on the two of them together or anything like that would allude to us as the audience knowing that they were together, right? So I don't think they do. I think it's just more of what you said. Like, she was on TV, she's popular, she had a book, they came to the book signing, and that was like the first kind of sign that like, oh, she's getting mixed up in this in some way. And now we find out that it was because they were kind of, I guess, vetting her or checking her out to see if they wanted to use her for therapy, and now she is their marriage counselor, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's a wild couple to be put in the middle of.
And then it's crazy because like this is where Kingpin came off like a simp. Like my man is
right. We know he is.
Like he's like, oh, like anything for you. And he's like he's so scared that she's gonna leave him that he goes to therapy, and she looks like she doesn't even want to go.
Yeah.
Like she's like he's like, how do I fix this? How do I fix this? He needed like an interpreter to like tell him how to fix it. He's not even mad about the infidelity. He's like, no, I can't be without her. And it's like, bro, what? Like, what is your problem? Like the man, his entire kryptonite is him simping for Vanessa.
Yeah.
Like you know what I mean? Like, if you ever really wanted to get to the Kingpin, you just kill Vanessa. That'll hurt him.
Pretty much.
Like he'll probably like by the time,
but he will smash you into tiny bits if you did that. But
it's kind of like, if you have nothing to lose, if he took from you, like your family, you know how to get him back.
Yeah.
And like you kind of like just when he's killing you, just laugh. You're like you can do whatever you want. You're not gonna get Vanessa back. Like, and then we get to the last 5 minutes of the or 10, I don't know. Like I'm looking at my notes here. The last like 5 minutes of the episode.
Yeah.
Matt Murdock, he has an entire enforcer, has other people around, and he runs to this person's apartment, sight unseen. You see what I did there? And like without knowing the layout of this place, gets there, and this guy looks like a junkie. The place looks like a crack house, and he's like, "Let's get out of here." And then my whole thing, I was screaming to the screen, like, you should leave too.
Yes.
Or like I thought
You
he was
should
gonna
both go now.
I thought he was gonna do something crazy, like rip the sleeve off his jacket and like go old school Netflix, Matt Murdock and cover his face. No, he proceeds to be the biggest dickhead you could be to a New York cop. Cops that you already suspect are dirty. And like he's like where do you think this confidence come from? What do you think he was trying to provoke them, or like by being a smart ass, or you think he was just being
Yeah.
mad?
I think he was maybe trying to give the guy time to
Mhm.
get out and then to create some distance between him and them. So he needed to have them focus in on him over
Yeah.
that guy. I do also think that, like, again, deep down inside, I don't know if this was as much a boiling point, right? Like, I don't know if this was him cracking as much as this was him confidently knowing that if he started shit with these two guys, that he could easily take both of them, which
Yeah.
is just a wild thing to be just to seriously to think that, to be like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna kick both of these cops' ass real fast, and like he knew that, but he also like he took his beating. It took a minute, and it was like the minute that they were gonna go to kill him, that's where he couldn't like resist. He couldn't not be the Daredevil anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
How do you think that he was being genuine to himself when he was like, "You guys don't want to do this"?
yes,
Or it's kind of
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
he was like, "You don't want to do this," but he's like, "Oh
'cause
yes,
I think he would have taken like a roughing up, right? Like, I think if they would have like punched him in the gut, done the kind of like classic bad guy cop thing, like kicked him once while he was down, and then like looked around the room and been like, "Damn it," and then like left him sitting there rolling around in agony, that would have been different, right? And he would have allowed that. Because it felt like he switched when the gun came out, and that's when he's like, "Oh shit, no, I can't pretend like I am this guy anymore. Now we're doing it. So don't do this. Don't do this. Think twice. Don't do this. Put the gun away."
So flipping the
away.
coin, like, how did these cops think that this was gonna go down?
Right.
Like, he's the lawyer on record for the guy that you arrested. Like, it's already gonna come off fishy. Like, you're gonna execute him here? How are you gonna explain that you're there?
They're the cops, right? They could frame it. It's that they could say it's that guy who they're looking for, and then they can blame him.
But they're gonna be like, "Who is that guy?"
Him.
Like, they're gonna be like, "Who is this guy?"
Right. Well,
like,
they'll say like, "Oh, he was in the apartment. We saw him," because they already know who he is, right? Like, they already came to the apartment to kill him, so it's not like they don't know.
For the rest of the NYPD, like, how do you write that up? Like, we were pursuing the lead, and then Matt Murdock, who has never had a crime in his life, was doing crack in this weird ass apartment, and we shot him.
Yeah.
Like, what? Like,
yeah,
it's insane.
He attacked us. He was on crack.
like the blind guy that had a cane in his hand. Like, what are you talking about?
And why is the crack sprinkled on top of him? It doesn't make any sense.
Like why is there a mixtape in his pocket too? but no, like the crazy thing about it is like me, I try to think sensibly. So I'm like, all right, I know for story wise, like, this scene needed to happen. But I'm like, if I'm Matt, I would have been like, "Oh man, I'm here for the same thing you guys are. I found the witness, but I can't.
Yeah.
He's not here.
Yeah.
Good luck," and then walk out.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean?
Think it was going to go down that way. Like, when he kind of openly unlocked the door and allowed them to come in, I didn't think it was going to go down the way it did. Right.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of glad it did, because it was fun to see him do that. And I think that's what it came down to, is like, there's nothing that pumps me up more than seeing that man beat up people. Like, it is just such an incredibly, like, because it's so brutal and violent, and they don't have it be the superhero thing where he's punching them but still like making sure there's no, he's breaking arms and making people regret that they ever were born.
He's definitely like not holding back his punches anymore. He's like, I'm gonna maim you. And like the broken bone, that was a very brutal fight scene. And I was like, this is Disney showing that Daredevil Born Again is gonna be different than anything you've seen before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, this is our stamp on it. And then at the end, you know what really touched me? That I was like, man, this is such a great show. Is when he let out that scream. Like, I sympathized with him. I was like, boy, me too. Like, you ever had one of those days here? Like, I'm just trying to do the right thing.
Today was one of those days for me, bro.
Oh,
Today
man.
was one of those days. So yes, like where nothing goes right for you, and you're just like, what did I do? What did I do? But you're also like, you try to hold it together to a certain point. You know what I mean? Like you go out there, you try to put on a smile, you try not to let this guy in traffic bother you and be the thing
Yep.
that pushes you over the edge. But then next thing you know, you come in and your dog pooped in your office, and it's it's
It's like, ah.
it's
Well,
the littlest thing. But
at
yeah, no, you know
least,
what I blame, honestly, or not blame, but I credit is that like I think Disney did something kind of smart with Deadpool and Wolverine, and that was make it so gratuitously violent, but then also make it so funny and silly with the violence. Like, oh yeah, we're cutting off people's heads, but it's to an NSYNC song and it's all good.
yeah,
And like now, to a degree, it's kind of like that band-aid's been ripped off. And like no
yep,
matter how violent this show gets, you can point to that movie and be like, well, look at the first 5 minutes of that movie. Nothing that we've
yep,
done in this show so far has touched that 5 minutes. So like, yeah, they did it in a silly way. They did it in a movie that took place in like a void fictitious world and all this stuff, but it's a great step in the right direction so that they can do this stuff, especially if they're going to do Punisher and other like the Midnight Suns and other of the dark, Hell's Kitchen kind of crew. Like
yep,
I want it to be like this, and I don't want them to have to hold back because it's Disney. And I feel like they're past that. They've acquired so much
yep,
stuff. They've done such a good job at making like Marvel and Star Wars content for people of all ages, meaning that
yep,
they're literally aiming to hire older demographics with shows like this and Andor and the Star Wars world and stuff like that. And that's what we want.
yep,
We grow up loving this stuff, but we want to continue to grow and be adults, and we want you to continue to, entertain us on a maturity level, I guess, that we're all used to. Like this show, this content should be this violent, and I'm glad it is, because that last, like again, that there was a big stretch there between the beginning of the first episode and the end of episode 2 that didn't have a lot of fighting in it. And
yep.
so like at least that reassured me there at the end that I was like, oh, he's back, we're back, and I
Yeah.
can't wait to see
And
episode
like,
2.
like I think this is a great stopping point. I am excited. What are you looking forward in the season? Now that we digested and we got the 2 episodes, what do you think is gonna happen? Like your prediction, as of course you're gonna come back and help me cover this show, correct?
Oh yeah, I would love to come back. I don't know. I think that we're going to continue to see Kingpin and Daredevil walk a similar path, but their own. Like it's like they're tied together, right? And I feel like that's a big component to the show. I also like can't wait to see what they do to continue to introduce other characters. I think that they've really mastered introducing characters in shows and vehicles like this that they can use at a different point, but not have to have them have their very cheesy, or not cheesy, but like very, very formulaic, introduction episode where we find out how they got their powers and we find out how they became a superhero. Like, I think everybody's done with that and they just want to see them get on with, big stories like the one that they told with the Infinity War and everything like
Yep,
that.
yep,
So yeah, I think that this is going to be part of that. There's a lot of characters in the Daredevil universe that they could still either bring back or introduce. But mostly like, yeah, man, keep it like this. Keep it. I like everything they've done so far. Keep it, grounded to a certain degree, but keep it about, Wilson and Matt being absolute insane people that like eventually have to destroy each other. That's
yep.
how,
Yeah, I think they're gonna. I don't know how we're gonna get there, but I think they're gonna go on a collision course that's gonna end amazingly. But this kind of wraps up this episode. Uh, Derek, tell them where they can find you, man.
Get me on all the social media at cap_caveman with a K. And aside from that, like I said, I do Diamondback stuff. I do a lot of other content. So hopefully check out everything we do. Got the Steel Cage podcast and more. So I just love talking about this stuff, man. I I love that we get to still enjoy the things that we did when we were 8 years old, and
Yes.
it's it's
That's-
now like some of the premium content being put out by any television studio.
Yep. So, guys, this is the first episode covering 2 episodes of Daredevil, Born Again. Presented by the XPod 97 podcast. It's your boy at the Sunset Kid, Marcos. Once again, thank you, Derek. Megaran is on vacation, guys, but the train is going to keep moving. So we will see you next time. We appreciate everybody's time. Peace. And hey, this is Marcos. Thanks for supporting the XPod 97. We now have merch, y'all. Grab a t-shirt, grab a sticker, grab a hoodie, or even get a mug for one of your relatives or something. I don't know. Rep the greatest X-Men podcast on the planet. We love doing what we do, and we want to continue bringing you weekly episodes. So don't forget to rate us and always subscribe so you don't miss out on the latest drops. Thanks again. We appreciate everything. See ya next time.